So we're going to discuss about this thing, starting from the ideas of Machiavelli. So the main theory that Machiavelli was saying, basically, it is, we discuss about his life and all, but the main thing that he want to say is basically political realism. What he want to say is just political realism. So basically, he's saying that the state is above all. So, and state hegemony, or you can say the sovereignty is supreme, and the aim of the ruler is to maintain the order of the state, and he should not be binded by morality and these things, right? It is the virtue he's talking about is exactly this, that a Christian, that the ability to change himself according to the situation, and fortune here is all these things, like maybe what this will say or what he will say. What the happening here is, so in this portion, that republicanism, so what he's saying, that individual liberty can best be prevailed in republican form of government and not by principality. So liberty of one possession and family life, essential to liberty was civic virtue. So civic virtue was the sense of civic duty that he was talking about, right? That individual liberty की form भी is in the republican form, right? That is the thing he's talking about. And let's change the color. The mark of virtue, not nobility or wealth, but common good, and the citizen should be like for that common good, balance between individual and community. So basically, his emphasis on the nation is from a community perspective, right? Community first, individual later. Right? That is his thinking, right? Essentially, and he's obviously critic of religion, and religion, if in the sense if it is to control the masses, then it's good. Like use religion. Basically, he's saying use the rulers should use whatever trick in the bank just to maintain harmony and things, and in the nations, in the state. Sorry. So this was a little, if you say, a restricted idea, focusing more on. So it is political realism, but later, like Hobbes and Locke and all, they focuses on the libertarian idea of the state. This is more of libertarians, more liberal, or we say liberal idea of the state, liberal idea of state. So let's discuss what Hobbes is saying. So Hobbes, it's in the English Civil War period, and there was restoration of monarchy there on constitutional basis. So this was the perspective, and he was a religious preacher. So Machiavelli was critic of religion. He was a religious preacher. What he's saying, that human being is a matter in motion. Life is continuous. So he's saying that life is continuous. Life is ever changing. Of one desire. Seems like philosophy, right? But the main thing is coming here, that human being is like an amalgamation of rationality and emotions. Emotions or passion, you say. So there's vital motions like heartbeat, breath, and there are voluntary motions, so-called endeavors, yeah, acts towards an object, so it is towards an object or away from the object, called appetite and aversion. So very good concept that Hobbes actually gave was the notion of state of nature. And state of nature is actually, he's saying, the natural state of things before the advent of the state and the political system, to the interaction of human beings with each other in the absence of any political authority. And obviously, in the we have political authority at that time and for a long period of time. So, for example, a monarch, was it is or king, who is it? It's a political authority, right? So, human in the absence of politics. So, it is a jungle system. So he's imagining a world where there is no political authority, and in that sphere, what type of interaction among human beings are happening? He's saying that it is the state of nature. So humans are pursuing here their desire, their will. No agreement on what is good, what is bad. There's constant conflict. So he's saying that the state of nature is the jungle raj, in which there is no like agreement on morality. So there is no morality here, and there is no rationality. There is no morality. There's constant conflict. There is no security. There's no industry, no navigation, no knowledge, no account of time, no art, no letter. So all the advances that human beings has done is because we moved from a state of nature to a more of a political society where there are rules, where there are consequences of those rules, where there is more morality. These things are there, and he's saying that it is very important. And in this sense of state of nature, because in the jungle, Raju is just focused on your survival. So human is just focused on his survival. He is in continuous fear that might he will be able to get his next meal, might he not be like killed by an animal, or in a conflict between two people, between two individuals. So there will be deaths and murders here, so rampant. Maybe cannibalism can exist here. So it is a state of nature, very violent, very crude. So we form political structures to exit this state of nature and form, and basically, if you say, you can basically organize society. Organization is there. The life is much more organized. There is order. If you need these things, then you must have some political authority. And the thing he is talking about is the social contract and the creation of state. And he's saying that this political authority should be in the form of the state, which is sovereign. And there's a social contract between the people, individuals, and the state. So obviously this contract has not happened in the paper, although if it happens, for example, constitution is like a social contract like kind of thing. But here it is referring on a philosophical basis that all individual in the state of nature, they decide that this nature state is not good, so we give up there are some natural rights. Obviously when you make a state, this because the state is sovereign, so the rights of state are above the individual rights. So you have to sacrifice some natural rights so that there is uh, so there will be some laws to agree. For example, a law. What is a law? It states that you cannot do this. Let's say, for example, but in the state of nature, you could have done this. So it is like you are abandoning some of your rights. But what are you getting? So in the contract, there are two parties. Each party is giving something or taking something. So the individual is giving up on his rights. What is the state giving here? So the contract is saying that I authorize and give up my right of governing myself to this man or the assembly of men. Basically, this is the nation of the state that I am giving my whole rights of governing myself on this condition that you give me your right to him and authorize all his action like manner. This done. What is it? United one person is called the Commonwealth. So they are here is imagining state in the terms of a commonwealth, right? And this social contract between the state and the individual, it is creates a sovereign entity called the state, right? So what is sovereignty? Sovereignty means power, absolute authority. So people without sovereign permission make a new contract to change the form of government. People cannot do this. They cannot form a new government without the sovereign permission. They cannot accuse the sovereign of any kind of injustice. So the thing decided by sovereign is sovereign. The individual, you cannot say that this you have done, this is injustice to me. No, you can't say, right? The sovereign has the sole right to make policy, impose censorship. So he sees that this particular idea is not good, he can ban it down, right? He can impose censorship, he can make any policy, he can make any law. Obviously there are restrictions to the state as well, we will see about that. But sovereignty is not a party to the contract, so condition of the contract are not binding to him. So we are discussing that both parties give to each other, but actually when the state is formed, the state is sovereign, so it is not governed by the contract actually. So, but basically, it exits us from the state of nature. So this is the rational plan to come out of the state of war or the state of nature, and Hobbes identify the state of nature as the state of war. So, so this was not a very liberal perspective, different perspective than Machiavelli. Then there come more liberal perspective from Locke and Rousseau. So Locke and Rousseau, the approaches are liberal perspective, and we will see about this. So the first thing is the thing of consent. So basically, what was who so what was basically Hobbes was saying? Hobbes was just simply saying that the state is not the party of the contract, of the social contract, and state had absolute sovereignty. Here is a little different perspective that human freedom is grounded in reason. Basically, what they're assuming that humans are rational. Human freedom is because humans are rational, right? So if you extended argument, so does the state of nature is good? So we'll come to it, but obviously they're not saying endorsing the state of nature. They're imagining it a little different. So obviously they are also emphasizing that this is a need of political authority, and but the authority is consensual. It is based on consent, and the purpose of the political authority, and which we will call it as state. Let's say, for example, it is common good of the individuals, of the citizens. If you call it citizens, and we will talk about what is citizenship, that it is the legal membership of a state. So, what is the idea of political authority? Where does political authority originate? So, everyone has different ideas. Some Hobbes is saying something, Locke is saying something. Basically, Hobbes' idea is more from community perspective. Community first approach is there. Locke idea is much focused first on the individual, right? So, what is the like things that a political authority can do? The first thing, political authority can make laws. So obviously, laws act as restrictions for individuals. They can wage war. Obviously, this pre-modern era, and they can execute those laws. So they just not have the authority to make laws. They will execute also. And if somebody is not following the law, they will penalize also him. So these are all the authorities they have. So I was saying that they imagine the state of nature a little different, and they also said that yeah, political authority is required. But what they are imagining in the state of nature, so they are saying that okay, we are governed by state of nature, and state of nature natural is state of reason because they are saying human beings are rational. So there is perfect freedom, perfect equality, and there is right to private property. So obviously these things are imaginary. So yeah, they are saying that in the imaginary state of nature, that the human beings are rational. There's a law of reason. There's perfect freedom. There's equality everywhere. There's right to private property. Nobody is breaking the laws and all these things. No, laws are not existing there because everything is running on reason and rationality, right? Uh, Obviously they put some restriction what they do not mean by private property, and human labor and common natural resources are not private property. One cannot acquire more property than he can use. So obviously the modern capitalists are gonna piss off at him because in modern capitalist system you can literally be a billionaire, you can literally be a trillionaire, and if you can imagine what $1 trillion is, it is literally like what thousand into thousand of $1 million, and I think $1 million is the maximum. $1 million is the maximum that you require to live a very king size life, and it is like what thousand into thousand, so it is like uh, 10 lakh times bigger than that number, and even the billion number is 1000 times bigger than what you will even require for a lifetime to give a very king size life. So the context of private property is a little different because there are limitations as well on it. You cannot acquire infinite amount of property, right? So what are the inconvenience faced in the state of nature? So you need a standard hurdle. Known law established by common consent is a standard right and wrong. Need for a different indifferent judge with a authority to determine all differences. Need for a power to back and support when right. The right to execute. Need to punish the transgression of others for the preservation of property. That in the state of nature, there is no punishment for the transgressions. They also imagine that it will not be a ideal world and there will be like deviations from it. So the transgressions need to be punished, right? There need to be power that can support the rights. So there is rights, but the rights need to be executed, and there should be a power, which is the state will is the power that will execute. And this is the reason they are calling it for the state of nature is not the ideal thing, and they want a government or a state. So but he's not saying in that sense that there is no the state is sovereign, exact, infinitely sovereign. There has to be equality before law. Laws are for common good. Okay, they are not just for the state's good. If there is some law which is not good for the Indian societies, people, citizens, then that law does not should not exist. No taxes without consent. So you need consent of the citizens to apply a taxation on them. And the legislative powers are non-transferable. You should not be able to transfer your powers to others. Okay. So what Rousseau is saying, so he's a critic of civilization. He's saying that natural man and rational man are adversaries. Cultivation are always prejudiced to military and moral qualities. Astronomy was one of the vices, superstition, elegance of flattery, ambition, geometry of evidence, physics of idle curiosity, moral philosophy, size and made him infamous. There is no cause an inequality in social context. So he's saying that this society breeds inequality, breeds class structure, and the social contract he's talking about in a different sense. So he's talking about the origin of inequality. That early man animal, there was no inequality, right? But with the modern systems, there is inequality, right? Early man animal like solitary creature. It's characterized by self-love and petty interaction. So indifference between self-love and self-engagement. Iron Con, the first civilized man, ruined humanity, emergence of private property, quality, pure emotion corrupted in society, man is born free, but everywhere he is in chains. Creation of body, political became a necessity, right? So these things are there.